The art of playing a baddie in the world of wrestling is something that truly takes quite a lot of skill. Most bad guys nowadays end up so beloved they will be cheered and praised for being so good at being bad rather than eliciting boos. However, one performer on the WWE roster that embodies the word heel better than a majority of his contemporaries right now is none other than Grayson Waller. So today in this video, I wanted to talk about how he reached this height and discuss if he is in fact the best bad guy in the WWE today. In doing so, we'll talk up and down about his whole wrestling career. Also, thanks so much for all the likes on the Austin Theory video. That's what essentially unlocked this one being made now, which was also a really good video. You should check that one out after this one. However, if you would like another of this variety to be made, except this time about Johnny Gargano, be sure to drop a like, as once this video hits, let's say, 500 likes, I'll get to working on that video next, which if you want to see once it's out, be sure to subscribe. Rightio, so Matthew Farrelly, aka Grayson, was born on March 21st, 1990, in the city of Sydney, Australia. Matt would begin his pro wrestling journey in 2017 using the ring name Matty Wahlberg, debuting at a Newcastle Pro Wrestling event on April 15th of that year. Much of his indie career wasn't exactly well documented, but he would do some indie work in Ohio, specifically with PWA, before getting a call from WWE and signing a developmental deal with them in March of 2021. Here, he would be given the ring name Grayson Waller, and about 3 months after signing with the promotion, he would have his debut match on an episode of 205 Live, defeating Sunil Singh in the process. Then, after picking up some more wins in the Cruiserweight division, he would challenge then Cruiserweight champion Roderick Strong for the title on the September 28th episode of NXT. He would prove unsuccessful, but this showed that there was some confidence in the guy by putting him in with Roddy, aka one of NXT's top talents at the time. However, this rather short era would be the only time he would be a face on WWE TV, as on the November 23rd episode of the show, he would begin his heel shtick by berating fans and being Australian basically. From here, as a part of Team 2.0, Waller would join up with Braun Breaker, Tony D'Angelo, and Carmelo Hayes to take on the Black and Gold originals of Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Pete Dunne, and LA Knight. The 2.0 crew would beat the Black and Gold before Waller would further prove himself as a top heel on the brand by attacking Johnny Gargano during his farewell speech. After this, Waller would announce that his goal would be to tear apart the old NXT piece by piece, which, considering Black and Gold NXT is a good chunk of passionate fans' most beloved WWE era ever, this proved to be an effective heel move and character for Grayson, and he would start his dismantling of the old NXT by attacking Dexter Lumis after Lumis's match. However, after Dexter, he would then target definite NXT original AJ Styles. Yeah, this was a curious choice given his character motivations at the time, but at least it would afford him a win over a major star so early in his career he lost. Anyways, after the match, LA Knight, who had been beefing with Waller in the lead up to the War Games match, made his return and attacked the Aussie icon. This would lead to a short feud between the two, where Waller would enlist Sanga as a quote-unquote piece of insurance, and together the pair began targeting Knight and trying to make his life a living hell. First, during a match where the megastar fought against Joe Gacy, where after a Sanga distraction, Knight lost the match. And after that loss, Waller and Knight themselves would be set to face off at NXT Roadblock in a last man standing match, where Waller would defeat Knight by using Sanga to get to his feet. After dispatching Knight, Waller would move on to qualify for the NXT North American Championship ladder match at NXT Stand and Deliver, but would prove unsuccessful in capturing the title. In addition to being unsuccessful here, he and Sanga would enter a tag team gauntlet for the vacant NXT tag titles, which would end up being won by the Creed brothers. From here, his Alimo Sanga would kind of fade off a little bit, before setting his sights on the NXT North American title once more, which was held by Carmelo Hayes at the time. He would secure the opportunity by tricking Hayes into signing a contract for their match at NXT Great American Bash. Waller would lose here after interference from Trick Williams and Wes Lee, and would predominantly blame Lee for the loss. Because of this, the pair would begin a feud which Waller would quickly win. At this point, Waller was beginning to be just a thorn in the side of the entire NXT locker room and NXT as a whole, so with that in mind, Grayson would then go on to start another program, this time with a returning Apollo Crews. Anyways, Waller would manage to win their first encounter on the August 30th episode of NXT by feigning an eye injury and gaining an edge over Crews. Then the pair would face off in a second match at NXT Halloween Havoc. This match would have a stipulation you would never guess. Genuinely, I have no idea why, but Apollo Crews versus Grayson Waller was a casket match. Like, I know it was Halloween Havoc, so spooky match type, but this just didn't mentally feel right to me. Anyways, Waller would lose here before setting his eyes on becoming the #1 contender for the NXT title. He would do so at NXT Deadline, where he won the inaugural Iron Survivor Challenge, which is kind of funny considering he was on Australian Survivor years ago. The match between him and then NXT champion Breakker would be scheduled for New Year's Evil on January 10th. The finish of the match involved some funny, quirky rope shenanigans. Specifically, the middle rope snapped when Grayson hit it, causing Waller to fall out of the ring and ultimately leading to a countout victory for Braun. Due to the controversy of this finish, a rematch was scheduled a month later at NXT Vengeance Day, this time round in a steel cage, where this time he would lose clean as a whistle. Moving into some of Waller's final acts in NXT, at Roadblock he would host an episode of the Grayson Waller Effect, where he would bring on Shawn Michaels and essentially try to insist that the Heartbreak Kid should come out of retirement to face him at Stand and Deliver. This would obviously lead to Michaels saying no, but then Shawn would reveal a man who did want to face him at Stand and Deliver, which of course directly led to the return of Johnny Gargano, who Waller of course took out months ago. This was a phenomenal payoff to their story, and frankly Waller played his part to perfection and even lost via submission in their unsanctioned match. This impressed enough to get the guy back in the NXT title scene, where after winning a fatal 4-way on April 11th, he earned a shot at Carmelo Hayes and the NXT Championship at Spring Breakin'. However, he would lose the match and unfortunately would end up breaking his leg towards the end of it. Despite this, he would be called up to the main roster as a part of the 2023 draft and would make his debut on the SmackDown brand on May 19th, where he would interview AJ Styles in the lead up to his match against Seth Rollins to crown the inaugural World Heavyweight Champion. It was a nice segment which reminded the audience of their history, and overall seemed to show that there were solid plans for the guy on the main roster. This was further shown as he was placed in a fairly high profile segment alongside John Cena, who more or less showed up at Money in the Bank to cut a promo and gaslight the UK into thinking they were getting WrestleMania 41. Anywho, Waller came out, confronted Cena, and was Australian, which innately made him a heel to the UK crowd before him getting AA'd for his troubles. After his issues with Cena, Waller would invite Edge on the Grayson Waller Effect for the July 7th episode of SmackDown. This would be used to set up a match between the pair, which would occur later that same night. Edge would pick up the win, but following the bout, he would praise Waller for his efforts. Grayson would meander around for a little while here until on the September 15th episode of SmackDown, he would once again end up in a high-profile segment with the leader of the C Nation. This would largely be used as a vehicle to get Cena involved with the Bloodline once again, but it was still nice seeing Grayson in such a high-profile spot. And after that, we start the run that Waller is currently on alongside Theory. The pair would start out with a fairly high-profile program, with them antagonizing Kevin Owens. And A-Town Down Under would even manage to get KO suspended for a short time, but they would both lose to him as well as Carmelo Hayes in the United States Championship #1 Contenders Tournament. From here, Waller would continue feuding with Melo both on NXT as well as during the 2024 Royal Rumble match, where he would even be eliminated by him. Fortunately for Grayson, the next event on the calendar was of course the Elimination Chamber in his home country of Australia. Waller, as well as all of the Aussie acts, received a great reaction, and alongside Austin Theory, he was more prominently featured in a rather high-profile segment alongside Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. The pair more or less acted as a pair of heels to antagonize the faces, since Rocky and Roman couldn't be asked to make the trek to Australia, but they played their parts to perfection, and this even almost seemed to signal the start of their current story. You see, Waller got out of there, and in the meantime, the faces had a free body to beat up on in the form of Austin Theory, which, if you've been keeping up with WWE TV since Mania, that's been the trend here more or less since. However, of course, at WrestleMania, Waller, alongside Austin Theory, was officially crowned as a champion in WWE, winning the SmackDown tag titles, which are now of course known as the WWE tag titles. And I gotta tell you, this current story of Waller using Theory is something I'm really into. It might be because Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa have helped elevate it during their promo segment a few weeks ago, but also I really think that the inevitable and eventual face turn of Theory will help solidify the heelish prowess that Waller absolutely possesses. But I'm curious, what do you think? Does Waller have the chops to be a top heel in the WWE? Is he already more or less there? Let me know in the comments down below, and hey ho, while you're headed down that way, it would help me out immeasurably if you consider leaving the video a like, as again, if this video hits 500 likes, I'll be making another video of this kind about Johnny Gargano. So if you want to catch that once it's out, be sure to subscribe. Oh, and check out the Theory video I did as well in the meantime. With all that being said, once again, I hope you enjoyed, but for now, stay safe, and that was Dylightful.